The cell block echoed with jeers. A cruel chorus that sliced through the stale air like a blade. "Hey, female, you lost." A voice taunted, followed by laughter that ricocheted off the concrete walls. Ezra, 27, stood frozen, his heart pounding as he clutched the edge of his bunk, his knuckles whitening against the cold metal. It was his first week at Ironwood State Prison, a sprawling fortress in the California desert where the sun baked hope into ash. Ezra wasn't like the others. Born Eliza, he'd transitioned years ago, his body a map of hard-won battles, hormone therapy, a double mastectomy, a name that felt like home. But here, in this cage of steel and spite, his truth was a target. The guards didn't care about his identity. They saw his paperwork, stamped F, and tossed him into the men's block with a smirk. "Good luck, sweetheart," one had said, shoving him toward the wolves. Ezra's green eyes scanned the cell, avoiding the mirrors that mocked him. His cellmate, Marcus, a hulking figure with a buzz cut and scars crisscrossing his knuckles, hadn't spoken since Ezra arrived. Marcus, 29, was serving 5 years for robbery. A man of few words but heavy presence. Ezra braced for the worst, expecting Marcus to join the taunts. Instead, Marcus just watched, his brown eyes unreadable, like a storm waiting to break. That night, as the prison settled into an uneasy quiet, Ezra lay awake, the word female burning in his mind. He'd fought for his name, his body, his soul, yet here, it was stripped away in a single syllable. He whispered to himself, "I'm Ezra," a mantra to keep from drowning. Morning brought no relief. In the chow hall, a group of inmates cornered Ezra, their leader a wiry man named Vance, sneering. "What's a girl doing in here?" "Huh." Vance's voice was venom, his cronies snickering. Ezra's jaw tightened. But before he could speak, a shadow loomed. Marcus stepped forward, his broad frame blocking Vance's path. "Back off," Marcus said, his voice low, a rumble that silenced the room. Vance hesitated, then slunk away, muttering curses. Ezra's breath caught. "Why'd you do that?" he asked later. Back in their cell, Marcus shrugged, leaning against the wall. Didn't like his face, but his eyes lingered on Ezra. A flicker of something, curiosity, maybe, or recognition. Ezra didn't push. He'd learned to guard his trust like a flame in the wind. Days turned to weeks, and the taunts didn't stop. But Marcus became a quiet shield. He didn't ask questions, didn't pry into Ezra's past, but his presence was a steady anchor. They shared small moments, Marcus passing Ezra an extra apple from the mess hall, Ezra sketching on scraps of paper, his pencil tracing dreams of a life beyond the bars. One night, Ezra showed Marcus a drawing of a starry sky over a desert canyon. "That's home," Ezra said softly. "Before all this." Marcus studied the sketch, his fingers brushing the paper. "Looks free," he murmured. For the first time, Ezra saw a crack in Marcus's arm, or a longing that mirrored his own. But freedom was a distant dream. The prison was a pressure cooker, and Vance's crew wasn't done with Ezra. Whispers spread that Vance had connections, a gang on the inside that thrived on power plays. Ezra overheard them in the yard, plotting to teach the freak a lesson. Fear coiled in his gut, but he hid it, keeping his head down, his sketches tucked away. One evening, as the cell block dimmed, Marcus broke his silence. "You don't talk much about before," he said, sitting on his bunk. Ezra hesitated, then spoke. "Grew up in Fresno. Mom kicked me out at 16 when I came out as trans. Been on my own since." His voice cracked, but he pushed on. "Got caught selling weed to pay for hormones. Stupid, but I was surviving." Marcus nodded, his gaze steady. My old man was a drunk. Beat me till I was bigger than him. Ran with the wrong crowd after that. He paused, his voice softening. You're not like them, Ezra. You're real. The word hit Ezra like a lifeline. Real. In a place that stripped him of everything. Marcus saw him. Not female. Not a number, just Ezra. Something shifted that night. A thread of connection weaving between them. Fragile but unbreakable. By the end of the first month, Ezra felt the weight of ironwood pressing harder. The guards turned a blind eye to Vance's taunts, and the other inmates sensed weakness. But Marcus was there, a silent promise in his stance. One day, in the yard, Vance tossed a crumpled note at Ezra's feet. It read, "You're next. Female." Ezra's hands shook as he showed it to Marcus, who crumpled it in his fist. "They won't touch you," Marcus said, his voice steel, but his eyes betrayed worry. And Ezra knew this was only the beginning. The days grew heavier, the air in Ironwood thick with tension. Ezra woke each morning to the same jeers. The word female spat like a curse. But Marcus's presence carved a small space of safety. Their cell became a sanctuary, where words were scarce, but trust began to bloom. Ezra started noticing Marcus's habits, the way he cracked his knuckles when nervous, how he'd hum old rock songs under his breath while cleaning their cell. One afternoon, Marcus caught Ezra staring. "What?" Marcus asked, a half-smile tugging at his lips. Ezra blushed, caught off guard. "Just, you're not what I expected." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Yeah? What did you expect?" Ezra shrugged, his voice soft. "Someone who'd break me." Marcus's smile faded, replaced by something deeper. "I've broken enough things in my life," he said, his voice rough. "Not you." The words hung between them, a vow unspoken but felt. Ezra's heart raced, a warmth spreading he hadn't felt in years. Outside their cell, the prison churned with danger. Vance's crew grew bolder, their taunts escalating to shoves in the hallway. One day, in the laundry room, a wiry inmate named Rico pinned Ezra against a wall, his breath hot with malice. "You don't belong here, freak," Rico hissed. Before Ezra could react, Marcus was there, yanking Rico back with a force that sent him sprawling. The room went silent. Eyes on Marcus. "Next one who touches him answers to me," he growled. Rico scrambled away, but his glare promised retribution. That night, Ezra couldn't sleep. "You can't keep doing this," he told Marcus, his voice trembling. "They'll come for you too." Marcus leaned back, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. Let him try. But Ezra saw the tension in his jaw, the weight of a fight he hadn't chosen. To distract himself, Ezra shared more of his past. He told Marcus about the community center in Fresno, where he'd found a chosen family among other trans kids. How they'd pool money for binders and celebrate each other's name changes. "It was the first place I felt seen," Ezra said, his voice catching. Marcus listened, his silence a kind of reverence. Then, hesitantly, he spoke. "Never had that. Family. I mean, just fists and yelling." He paused, then added, "You make me think there's more than that." Their bond deepened, small gestures building a bridge. Marcus saved Ezra a seat in the chow hall. Ezra slipped him a sketch of a wolf, fierce and free, which Marcus tucked into his pocket. But the prison wasn't a place for softness. Vance's gang was circling, and rumors spread of a shiv hidden in the yard. Ezra felt the walls closing in, his sketches now filled with jagged lines, his dreams of freedom fading. One morning, a guard officer, Tate, a cold-eyed man who'd called Ezra miss, with a sneer pulled him aside during roll call. "Heard you're causing trouble," Tate said, his voice low. Keep it up, and you'll see solitary. Ezra's stomach dropped. He hadn't done anything. But truth didn't matter here. When he told Marcus, the man's fists clenched. Tate's dirty. Marcus muttered. Works with Vance's crew. Stay close to me. Ezra nodded. But fear gnawed at him. That afternoon, in the library, he found a book on California's deserts. Its pages filled with photos of canyons and endless skies. He showed it to Marcus, pointing to a picture of Joshua Tree. When I get out, I'm going there, Ezra said. No walls. Just space. Marcus's eyes softened. Sounds like a plan, he said. Maybe I'll see it too. The moment was cut short by a commotion in the yard. Vance and his crew had cornered a young inmate. Their laughter cruel. Ezra's heart sank, recognized the kid. Barely 19. Who'd been quiet. Like him. Marcus moved to intervene. But Ezra grabbed his arm. Don't. He whispered. It's a trap. Marcus's eyes burned. But he stayed put. His body tense. That night, Marcus broke his usual silence. I'm not letting them win, he said, his voice low but fierce. Not Vance. Not Tate. Not this place. Ezra met his gaze, seeing not just anger but a spark of hope. Then we fight smart, Ezra said. Together. Marcus nodded. And for the first time, their hands brushed a fleeting touch that felt like a promise. But promises were fragile in ironwood. The next day, a fight broke out in the chow hall, orchestrated by Vance. In the chaos, a guard accused Ezra of starting it. And before Marcus could protest, Ezra was dragged to solitary. As the cell door slammed shut, Ezra clung to one thought. Marcus saw him. And that was enough to keep fighting. Solitary was a void. A concrete box where time dissolved into darkness. Ezra sat on the cold floor, his knees drawn up, tracing invisible sketches in the air to keep his mind from unraveling. The guards had stripped him of his pencil and paper, but they couldn't take his imagination or the memory of Marcus's hand brushing his. Outside, Marcus was a caged animal. He paced their cell, his mind racing with plans. He knew Tate was behind Ezra's punishment, a move to break them both. Marcus had seen it before, guards playing favorites with inmates like Vance to keep the prison's power structure intact. But Ezra wasn't just another inmate. He was the first person Marcus had cared about in years. And the thought of him suffering alone ignited something fierce. In solitary, Ezra fought to hold on to himself. He whispered his name. Ezra. Like a prayer, refusing to let female define him. He thought of Marcus's wolf sketch, now tucked in Marcus's pocket, a piece of him that had escaped these walls. He imagined Marcus's voice, low and steady, promising to fight. It kept him grounded, even as the hours blurred. Marcus, meanwhile, worked the yard, bartering cigarettes for information. He learned Vance's crew planned to escalate their attacks, targeting Ezra when he returned. Marcus's blood boiled, but he played it cool, knowing a wrong move could cost them both. He approached a quiet inmate named Leo, a lifer who knew the prison's underbelly. Need a favor, Marcus said, slipping Leo a pack of smokes. Keep an eye on Tate. Something's off. Leo nodded, his eyes sharp. Tate's been taking bribes. Vance's gang gets free rein if they keep the block in line. Marcus's jaw tightened. He'd suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed fueled his resolve. He needed Ezra out of solitary and he needed a plan. Back in the hole, Ezra's mind drifted to his past. He remembered his first Pride parade. At 17, the rainbow flags vibrant against Fresno's dusty streets. He'd felt invincible then, surrounded by people who saw him for who he was. Now, in this cell, that memory was a lifeline. He imagined telling Marcus about it, sharing that joy. The thought made him smile. A small rebellion against the darkness. After 3 days, Ezra was released. His body weak, but his spirit unbroken. Marcus was waiting in their cell, his eyes scanning Ezra for damage. "You okay?" Marcus asked, his voice tight. Ezra nodded, though his hands shook. "Better now," he said, managing a faint smile. Marcus's relief was palpable, his hand hovering near Ezra's shoulder before pulling back. They didn't speak of solitary, but the air between them had changed. Marcus became more vigilant, his presence a constant shield. Ezra, in turn, shared more of himself. One night, he told Marcus about his dream to open a community center for trans youth, a place where no one would feel alone. Marcus listened, then said, "You're gonna do it. I can see it." His belief felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. But danger loomed. Vance's crew was planning something big, and Tate's involvement made it deadlier. Marcus caught wind of a shiv hidden in the laundry room, meant for Ezra. He confided in Leo, who revealed Tate was skimming profits from the gang's contraband deals. "If we expose him," Leo said, "Vance loses his protection." Marcus saw a chance, a risky one, but worth it for Ezra. They devised a plan. Marcus would gather evidence of Tate's corruption, while Ezra, with his sharp eye for detail, would document every move Vance's crew made. Ezra hesitated, fear clawing at him, but Marcus's steady gaze gave him courage. "We're in this together," Marcus said, and Ezra nodded, their hands brushing again, this time lingering. The next day, Ezra slipped into the library, pretending to read while watching Vance's crew. He noted their meetings, their signals, sketching them in code only he understood. Marcus, meanwhile, shadowed Tate, catching him taking a bribe in the yard. It was a start, but they needed more. As the week ended, Ezra and Marcus sat in their cell, the tension palpable. "If this goes wrong," Ezra whispered, "we're done." Marcus met his gaze, his voice firm. "It won't. I've got you." For the first time, Ezra believed it not just in Marcus, but in the possibility of something beyond these walls. Their fight was no longer just for survival. It was for each other. The plan took shape in whispers, under the cover of Ironwood's restless nights. Ezra and Marcus knew they were walking a tightrope. One misstep could land them in solitary, or worse. But the thought of Vance's shiv, of Tate's corruption, and of Ezra's daily torment drove them forward. Ezra's sketches became their map. He'd always been observant, a skill honed from years of navigating a world that didn't understand him. Now, he turned that lens on Vance's crew, noting their routines in coded drawings, arrows for meetings, circles for drop-offs. Marcus, with his street smarts, decoded the prison's power plays, identifying who owed Tate favors and who could be swayed. One evening, Marcus slipped Leo another pack of cigarettes. "Need you to get me into the guard's break room," he said. Leo raised an eyebrow, but agreed, knowing Marcus's reputation for keeping his word. Late that night, Leo distracted a guard while Marcus rifled through Tate's locker, finding a notebook with coded transactions, proof of bribes. He tucked it into his waistband, his heart pounding. Ezra, meanwhile, faced his own risks. In the chow hall, Vance cornered him again, his voice dripping with menace. "Heard you're snooping. Female," he said, his eyes narrowing. Ezra's pulse spiked, but he kept his face neutral. "Just eating," he said, holding up his tray. Vance smirked, but a guard's whistle broke the moment. Ezra exhaled, realizing how close he'd come. Back in their cell, Marcus showed Ezra the notebook. "This could take Tate down," he said, his voice low. Ezra flipped through it, his artist's eye catching patterns in the numbers. "It's enough to start," he said, "but we need to catch him in the act." They decided to set a trap, using a fake contraband drop to lure Tate and Vance into the open. The plan was dangerous, but their bond gave them strength. One night, as they worked out the details, Ezra spoke of his fears. "If this fails, they'll kill us," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Marcus leaned closer, his brown eyes fierce. "They won't get the chance. I'd burn this place down first." Ezra laughed softly, the sound breaking the tension. "You're crazy," he said. Marcus grinned. "Crazy enough to keep you safe." Their connection deepened. No longer just a shield but a spark. Ezra felt it in the way Marcus's gaze lingered, in the warmth of their shared silences. One evening, as they sat on Marcus's bunk, Ezra traced a scar on Marcus's arm. "How'd you get this?" he asked. Marcus's voice was soft. "Bar fight. Before I learned to pick my battles." He paused, then added, "You're one worth picking." Ezra's breath hitched. He wanted to lean closer, to cross the line from trust to something more. But fear held him back. Not fear of Marcus, but of what this place could do to something so fragile. Instead, he squeezed Marcus's hand. A silent promise. The trap was set for the yard, where Vance's crew made their drops. Marcus spread word of a fake shipment, knowing Tate would show. Ezra's role was to watch, his sketches recording every move. As the day approached, tension coiled tighter. Ezra's dreams were haunted by Vance's sneer, Tate's cold eyes, but Marcus's voice always pulled him back. When the day arrived, the yard buzzed with unease. Marcus signaled Ezra from across the crowd. A nod that said, "We've got this." Ezra clutched his pencil, hidden in his sleeve, ready to draw. Tate appeared, his eyes darting to Vance, who slipped a package into a trash can. Marcus moved closer, his body tense but controlled. Then it went wrong. Rico, Vance's right-hand man, spotted Ezra sketching and lunged. "You little rat," he shouted, grabbing Ezra's arm. The yard erupted, inmates scattering as guards rushed in. Marcus tackled Rico, his fists flying, but Tate's whistle cut through the chaos. "Both of you solitary," he barked, pointing at Marcus and Ezra. As they were dragged away, Ezra's heart sank. The notebook was still hidden, their plan in tatters. In solitary, he curled up, whispering his name to stay whole. But he thought of Marcus, fighting for him, and a new resolve took root. They weren't done. Not yet. Solitary was colder this time, the walls seeming to close in tighter. Ezra sat in the dark, his fingers tracing the air, imagining Marcus's wolf sketch. He clung to the memory of their plan, the notebook, their shared fight. It wasn't over, he told himself. It couldn't be. Marcus, in a separate cell, was a storm of frustration. He'd taken down Rico, but at a cost. Tate had the upper hand, and the yard fight had only strengthened his grip. Marcus replayed every moment, cursing himself for not seeing Rico's move. But Ezra's face defiant, scared. Alive kept him focused. He had to get them out. After 2 days, they were released, bruised but unbroken. Back in their cell, Marcus grabbed Ezra's shoulders, his eyes searching. "You hurt?" he asked. Ezra shook his head, though his arm ached where Rico had grabbed him. "I'm fine," he said, then added, "We're not done. Right?" Marcus's jaw set. Not even close. The notebook was still hidden, tucked behind a loose brick in their cell. Ezra pored over it, decoding more of Tate's transactions. "He's skimming thousands," Ezra said, his voice low. "If we get this to the right guard, Tate's finished. Marcus nodded, but his eyes darkened. Vance won't let that happen. We need to move fast. They enlisted Leo again, who knew a guard officer Ruiz who wasn't in Tate's pocket. Ruiz was young, idealistic, and rumored to hate the prison's corruption. Marcus met him in the library, passing a coded note about Tate's deals. Ruiz's eyes widened, but he nodded. I'll look into it, he said. But you're playing with fire. Ezra and Marcus knew the risks. Vance's crew was watching, their threats now physical a shove in the hall. A tray knocked from Ezra's hands. But Marcus was a wall, his presence daring anyone to cross him. Ezra felt a mix of fear and awe. Marcus wasn't just protecting him. He was rewriting the rules of this place. For them. One night, as the cell block quieted, Ezra spoke softly. Why do you do this? Risk everything for me. Marcus looked at him, his guard down. Because you see me too, he said. Not the guy who messed up, but me. Ezra's heart pounded. He reached out, their fingers intertwining, a spark igniting in the dark. The moment was fleeting. The next day, Leo brought bad news. Vance had caught wind of their plan. He's coming for you both, Leo warned. Marcus's fists clenched, but Ezra's mind raced. We need to turn his crew against him, Ezra said. If they know Tate's using them, they'll flip. It was a desperate play. Marcus spread rumors in the yard, hinting that Vance was shorting his own crew to keep Tate happy. Ezra backed it up, slipping coded sketches to key inmates, showing Tate's profits. Doubt spread like wildfire. By week's end, Rico confronted Vance in the chow hall, their argument drawing a crowd. You're selling us out, Rico shouted. Vance's control was slipping. But Tate wasn't blind. He pulled Marcus aside, his voice cold. I know what you're doing. Stop, or your boyfriend pays. Marcus's blood ran cold, but he kept his face blank. Don't know what you mean, he said, walking away. Back in their cell, he told Ezra, who paled but nodded. We're too close to stop, Ezra said. For us. They doubled down, passing the notebook to Ruiz, who promised to escalate it to the warden. But the night before the handoff, Vance's crew struck. In the showers, 3 inmates cornered Ezra, one brandishing a shiv. Ezra dodged, his heart racing, but a fist caught his jaw, sending him to the floor. Before the shiv could strike, Marcus roared in, taking down 2 men in seconds. The third fled, but the damage was done. Ezra's lip was split, his body bruised. Marcus helped him up, his hands trembling with rage. I'm sorry, he whispered. Ezra shook his head, gripping Marcus's arm. You saved me. Again. Their eyes locked. And in that moment, the prison faded. It was just them, 2 souls refusing to break. The shower attack left Ezra shaken, his lips swollen, but his resolve hardened. Marcus was a furnace of guilt and fury, blaming himself for not being there sooner. No more risks, he told Ezra, his voice tight. But Ezra shook his head. We're too deep to quit. Tate's going down. Ruiz was their last hope. The young guard had taken the notebook to the warden, but days passed with no word. The prison hummed with tension. Vance's crew fractured but still dangerous. Ezra and Marcus kept low, their every move watched. In their cell, they planned in whispers, their hands brushing more often, each touch a quiet defiance. Ezra shared more of his dreams, his voice soft in the dark. After this, I want to help kids like me. Give them a place to be safe. Marcus listened, his heart aching. You'll do it, he said. And I'll be there, cheering you on. Ezra smiled, his eyes bright. You mean that? Marcus nodded, his voice rough. Every word. Their bond was no longer just survival, it was love. Unspoken but undeniable. One night, as the cell block slept, Ezra leaned closer, his breath warm. "If we get out," he whispered, "will you come with me?" To Joshua Tree. Marcus's hand found his, their fingers lacing. "Try stopping me," he said, and for the first time, they let their foreheads touch. A moment of peace in the storm. But the storm was closing in. Ruiz cornered Marcus in the yard, his face grim. "Warden's investigating. But Tate's got friends upstairs. You need hard evidence, something public." Marcus nodded, his mind racing. They needed a spectacle. Something Tate couldn't bury. Ezra had an idea, the prison talent show. A rare event where inmates and guards mingled. "We expose him there," Ezra said, in front of everyone. It was their boldest move yet. Ezra wrote a script, disguised as a poem, weaving in coded references to Tate's bribes. Marcus would perform it, his presence commanding attention. They rehearsed in secret, Ezra coaching Marcus to deliver each line with fire. "You're a natural," Ezra said, grinning. Marcus laughed, a rare sound that warmed Ezra's soul. The talent show arrived, the mess hall packed with inmates and guards. Marcus took the stage, his voice steady as he recited Ezra's words. "In these walls, some trade truth for gold/shadows, deal while the brave grow cold." The crowd murmured, sensing the subtext. Tate, in the back, stiffened, his eyes narrowing. Ezra watched from the sidelines, his heart pounding. Then it unraveled. Vance, sensing the threat, rushed the stage, tackling Marcus. Chaos erupted, inmates shouting, guards blowing whistles. Ezra lunged forward, pulling Vance off, but a guard grabbed him, pinning his arms. Marcus fought back, his fists a blur, but Tate's voice cut through. "Enough. Solitary for both." As they were dragged away, Ezra caught Marcus's eye. A silent message, "We're not done." In solitary, Ezra clung to their plan, rewriting the poem in his mind. Marcus, in his own cell, punched the wall, his knuckles bleeding. But he thought of Ezra's smile, his dreams of Joshua Tree, and found strength. Ruiz visited Marcus, slipping him a note. "Warden's listening. Your poem got through. Keep pushing." Marcus's hope reignited. When they were released, he and Ezra regrouped, their bond stronger than ever. "We're close," Ezra said, his eyes fierce. Marcus nodded. "Let's end this." They planned one final move, a direct confrontation. Ezra would distract Tate in the yard, while Marcus and Leo planted the notebook in Tate's office, where Ruiz would find it during a routine check. It was their last shot, and they knew it. As they clasped hands, Ezra whispered, "For us." Marcus squeezed back, "For us." The final plan was a gamble, every step laced with danger. Ezra and Marcus moved like ghosts, their trust in each other absolute. The yard was their stage, Tate their target, and the notebook their weapon. They had one chance to bring him down. Ezra took the lead, his heart racing but his voice steady. During yard time, he approached Tate, feigning a complaint about his cell conditions. "Water's leaking," Ezra said, his eyes wide with false concern. Tate sneered, distracted just enough for Marcus and Leo to slip into the guard's office. They planted the notebook in Tate's desk, careful to leave no trace. Back in the yard, Tate's patience snapped. "Get lost. Female," he barked, shoving Ezra. The word stung, but Ezra stood tall, his defiance a quiet fire. Inmates watched, sensing the shift. Vance, nearby, smirked, unaware his own crew was turning against him. Thanks to the rumors Marcus had spread, Marcus and Leo returned, signaling Ezra with a nod. The trap was set. Ruiz, true to his word, conducted a random search of Tate's office that evening. When he emerged, holding the notebook, Tate's face paled. "What's this?" Ruiz asked, loud enough for the yard to hear. Inmates murmured, eyes darting between Tate and Vance, whose smirk vanished. The warden was called, a stern woman named Hargrove who'd been watching Tate for months. She flipped through the notebook, her expression hardening. "Tate, you're suspended," she said. "Investigation starts now." Tate protested, his voice rising, but Hargrove's glare silenced him. Vance, sensing the tide turning, slipped into the crowd, his power crumbling. That night, in their cell, Ezra and Marcus exhaled for the first time in weeks. "We did it," Ezra whispered, his voice thick with relief. Marcus pulled him into a hug. Their first, his arms strong and warm. "You did it," Marcus said. "Your sketches, your brain." Ezra laughed, tears in his eyes. "Our fight." But victory came with a cost. Vance's crew, now leaderless, lashed out. The next day, Rico cornered Ezra in the laundry room, his eyes wild. "You ruined everything," he spat, raising a fist. Before he could strike, Marcus appeared, his presence a wall. "Walk away," Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. Rico hesitated, then fled, knowing he was outmatched. The prison began to change. Hargrove cracked down, transferring Tate and investigating his allies. Vance's crew splintered, some turning informant to save themselves. Ezra and Marcus kept their heads down, their bond a quiet strength. They spent nights talking of the future Ezra's community center, Marcus's dream of a quiet life, maybe near Joshua Tree. One evening, as the cell block dimmed, Ezra took a risk. "Marcus," he said, his voice soft, "when we're out, I want us." Marcus's eyes softened, his hand finding Ezra's. "You've got me," he said. Their lips met, a tentative kiss that held years of pain and hope. It was a promise, sealed in the dark. But Ironwood wasn't done with them. Hargrove called Ezra to her office, her face unreadable. "Your case is up for review," she said. "Good behavior, and certain evidence you provided. You could be out in 6 months." Ezra's heart soared, but fear followed. What about Marcus? His sentence was longer, his release uncertain. Back in their cell, Ezra told Marcus, his voice trembling, "I'm not leaving without you," he said. Marcus shook his head, his smile bittersweet. "You're getting out. Live your dream. I'll find you." Ezra's eyes burned. "Promise." Marcus nodded, pulling him close. "Promise." As the days passed, Ezra clung to that promise, sketching Joshua Tree's canyons, now with 2 figures under the stars. Their fight had toppled a corrupt system, but their love had built something stronger. They were no longer just surviving, they were dreaming. Together. 6 months later, Ezra stood at Ironwood's gates, the desert sun warm on his face. His release papers were clutched in one hand, a sketch of Marcus's wolf in the other. He'd fought for this moment, but leaving Marcus behind felt like tearing out a piece of his heart. Inside, Marcus watched from the yard, his hands gripping the fence. He'd promised Ezra he'd be strong, but the ache was raw. "Live your dream," he'd said, and he meant it. Ezra had a purpose, his community center, his chance to help others. Marcus wouldn't let him stay trapped in Ironwood's shadow. Ezra's first stop was Fresno, where he reconnected with his chosen family. They welcomed him with open arms. Their pride parade memories now joined by his own story of survival. He rented a small apartment, its walls soon covered with sketches of canyons, wolves, and Marcus's face. Every night, he wrote letters to Marcus, pouring out his plans, his love, his hope. Marcus's letters came slower. The prison mail system a tangle of delays. But each one was a lifeline, his words steady and warm. "I'm proud of you," he wrote. "Keep drawing. I'll see those canyons soon." Ezra clung to those words, working tirelessly to start his community center. He called it Haven, a place for trans youth to find safety, chosen names, and dreams. Haven took shape in a rundown building, its walls painted with murals of deserts and stars. Ezra poured his heart into it, teaching art classes, listening to kids' stories, helping them navigate their own battles. But every success was bittersweet without Marcus. He visited Ironwood when he could, their hands pressed against the glass, their eyes saying what words couldn't. A year passed, then two. Marcus's release date loomed, his good behavior shaving months off his sentence. Ezra planned a trip to Joshua Tree for the day Marcus walked free. A promise kept. He saved every penny, sketching their future under those endless skies. When the day came, Ezra stood at the prison gates, his heart pounding. Marcus emerged, his buzz cut grown out, his brown eyes bright with freedom. They collided in a hug, laughter and tears mixing. "You did it," Marcus whispered, his voice thick. Ezra shook his head. "We did it." They drove to Joshua Tree, the desert stretching vast and unbroken. Under the stars, Ezra showed Marcus a new sketch of canyon with two figures, hand in hand. "This is us," he said. Marcus smiled, pulling him close. "Always was." Haven grew, a beacon for those society pushed aside. Ezra and Marcus ran it together, their love a quiet strength. The taunts of female faded, replaced by names spoken with respect. Ezra, Marcus, Haven. They'd broken Ironwood's rules, its cruelty, its cages. And in doing so, they'd freed not just Ezra's soul, but their own shared future. Their story spread, a whisper of hope in a world that often forgot. In Fresno, in Joshua Tree, in every kid who walked through Haven's doors, they saw what love could do. It could shatter walls, rewrite rules, and build a home where none existed. Ezra and Marcus stood together, under a desert sky, their hands entwined, their souls free.